used to go to Wimbledon and watch the Williams sisters, and I've got a shirt and pictures from when I was a kid when I had a picture of them both, and then to be playing on the court directly before them before they play each other was amazing.
Hello and welcome to the My Defining Moments podcast, where sporting stars tell me, Chris Brown, the 5 moments that have defined their career. For this episode, I was speaking live to Roland Garros, where the French Open tennis is held. Andy Lapthorne is one of the world's best in the wheelchair quads, having won 2 US Open singles titles, along with multiple doubles trophies. We discuss his journey to the top, how he learned to take his training more seriously, and how he struggled with his mental health in recent years. So, let's find out the moments that have defined the life of Andy Lapthorne. Hi Andy, thank you so much for being a guest on My Defining Moments. How's things going today?
Yeah, all good, mate, all good. Just here in Paris, getting ready for the French Open.
So what's Paris like? How's it been, like, the travel and all the restrictions and everything? Has it been a bit chaotic?
Yeah, it's definitely different, and there's a lot of different rules and bits of paper that you need to be bringing with you that you wouldn't normally, but we're looked after very well at the Grand Slams, and yeah, just happy to be out here and have the opportunity to play in circumstances like we're in at the moment is a privilege.
I just wanted to ask you, I saw that when I was doing some research that you're an ambassador for Brentford Football Club. So obviously a big weekend last weekend.
Yeah, so I'm a season ticket holder at West Ham because my dad's a big West Ham fan and I'm a massive West Ham fan. And then Brentford are my local team, the team that I used to go and watch when I was younger, and obviously training in Roehampton and in and around that area of West London. Good link up with Brentford, and they're great guys and done lots of work in the community there, trying to get more disabled people involved in sport and using the football club as part of that. And yeah, really good to be involved in the local area and trying to move things along there. And yeah, obviously now a Premier League club, which is going to help all that sort of stuff. So yeah, big weekend, and finally got through a big one in the playoffs. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah, so next season when it's West Ham v Brentford, who are you going to be siding with?
It's a tough question to answer. I can't answer that question on a public podcast, to be honest. But yeah, whoever needs it more at the time, I'll be hoping gets the points. But yeah, I go to West Ham every week, so they're my team, and Brentford are my local team, and Brentford have done a lot for me over the years and supported me massively. So I'm just glad that they are where they are, to be honest.
That's good. That's a very diplomatic answer. So just start by going back to the start of your journey, basically. What was it like kind of growing up with a disability? Did you kind of feel any prejudice when you were younger?
For me, there's always different prejudice in all walks of life, really. But for me, I was very lucky. I went to a mainstream school, met some great friends who I've been friends with since I was like 5 years old, and we're in our 30s now, and we're all still friends. And they all looked after me and made sure that going through school, going from junior school to high school, no one really picked on me or bullied me or anything like that. I was quite lucky in that sense. Some of my mates are quite big, so I think people knew from the start that it was never going to be an option to bully me, and I was just lucky that I had good friends around me from a young age that obviously, if you meet people at a young age, they're able to understand, and that they sort of grew up with me having a disability, and yeah, as I was growing with my disability, my friends were growing up with it as well and learning along the way also. So yeah, I know, like when you speak and hear a lot of people with disabilities speak, it's something that a lot of people had to put up with when they grew up, which is unfortunate. But for me, I was in a lucky position where I met a group of guys from a very young age, and we went all the way from the start of school to the end of school together, and that sort of provided me with a bit of a bubble. If anyone ever said anything, those guys would step in and make sure that was nipped in the bud quite quickly. So I was lucky in that sense, really, and always was made to feel normal and part of the group. And it was never something that was really until I got a bit older that I was viewed any different, to be honest.
Well, it's good to hear that it was like that at a young age. But then, like you say, when you got a bit older, did things start to change a little bit?
Yeah, I think just from a personal point of view, really, you start to grow up and you realise that things are different and that you're not going to be walking out playing for West Ham and you're not going to be a boxer and all these things that when you're younger that I had aspired and wanted to be. You start to understand that that's not going to happen. Um, and life's just a bit different. You start to understand that life is going to be different, and those things are at times quite difficult to deal with. And like when you meet a new girl or whatever, it's difficult because sometimes like they know you've got a disability, but they don't know to what extent your disability is. Is that going to change someone's viewpoint of you? All things like that. When you grow up and you start to understand the world's quite harsh when you're a bit older. When you're a kid, people are quite nice around you when you've got a disability, but obviously when you grow up, it can be quite difficult. It's all things like that. But I'm quite a bold guy, to be honest. So things like meeting new girls or meeting new friends and meeting it head on and not really letting it get me down or whatever. If I was to meet a girl off a dating app or whatever when I was in my late teens and they didn't like me for whatever reason when we met, when they saw the disability, then it wouldn't really affect me too much. It was just one of them things where that was part of my life and it is what it is at the end of the day. So definitely when you grow up, life gets a bit more harsh for sure. But I've always been quite lucky. And like I say, I've had long-term friends that have always been there and that backed me up and I have a good family around me. So I'm pretty content with where I'm at, to be honest.
And I guess sport has been kind of a good outlet for you. I mean, you've tried basketball, wheelchair basketball, and disabled football and stuff before you found tennis. Was sport always a big part of your life growing up?
Yeah, I think for me, like I was never I was never one that really enjoyed school that much. I loved the banter and being with my mates and messing around and stuff like that. But I was never one of these guys that wanted to be in a classroom 24/7. I was always quite active and like I say, growing up, I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be a boxer. And it was just about something that could feed that competitive spirit really. And when I came across tennis, and it's very similar to boxing in terms of its one-on-one combat. It's you and one other person, and saw that you could play at the Grand Slams, and it was the only disability sport that played alongside the able-bodied counterparts, and you was given that stage to play on. That was definitely straight away something that I thought this is where I need to be going. This is where I want my life to be. So that's what led me down that road, to be honest.
Yeah. So, how old were you when you first picked up a tennis racket, and when did you realize that that was going to be the sport for you?
So, like you said, I'd been trying all different sports, and I was about 11 years old, 12 years old, and just starting to get to that age where you start to understand that things are different, and I'm not going to be able to run around and play football with my mates forever because they're getting bigger, they're getting stronger, and I'm not going to be going into a boxing gym and fighting with anyone else because I used to go and hit the pads and stuff like that, and I used to love that. Um, so yeah, about 11, 12 years old, was trying all different sports and stumbled across tennis. Went to at the time it was the Tennis Foundation, who were the LTO's charity arm, and they were running camps for beginners. Went down and had a go, and straight away, well, like I say, when I found out about the Grand Slams and the prize money and the competitive element and always searching for that ability to be able to pick myself up against someone else one on one. As soon as I picked up that racket, that was me hooked, and that was me knowing that this was where I wanted to be, and this is what I wanted to do.
And then quite early on, you were teamed up with Peter Norfolk, who I guess was kind of the stalwart of the wheelchair tennis team for Great Britain. And what was he like working with him? Was he a good mentor to you?
Yeah, it was crazy, really. I came in and I would have been 16 or 17, and got thrown in at the deep end playing with Peter Norfolk, who was an older guy and won gold medals and known for being quite grumpy at times and being very competitive. And you had me, a young guy, pretty brash, coming in and playing doubles, and we were so different, but it just worked. Um, I think he understood where I wanted to go, and he respected that, and he respected the fact that when I came in, it was like I want to win. I want to, like, straight away, I was like, I want to play with Pete. I want to be the guy that gets picked for the Paralympics. And I think he respected that. And I think he also respected the fact that when we played singles, I didn't show him much respect, and I was trying to beat him. Which a lot of people, before they even went on the court to play him, they were already beat because he was world number one. He was winning everything. Um, and yeah, we had a bit of a weird relationship. I don't think many people would have put us together and said that it would have been successful, but the game style was definitely gelled. He liked to get to the net and beat the net, and I provided youth and speed and agility around the back of the court, and it just seemed to work well. And we ended up becoming quite close and good friends for a period of time off the court as well. And like you say, he taught me a lot. He taught me every trick in the book. So all the things that I've used over the years to get me over the line in big matches and big moments, a lot of the stuff that I've used has come directly from learning from him, not just things he told me, but from being on the court with him and watching him and what he did to be successful. So definitely played a big part in the early days for sure.
And like you said, you had some success. You won the 2011 Australian Open doubles title. What was that like, being quite young still and winning a Grand Slam?
Yeah, I mean, that year I became the youngest ever world number one in doubles in our category, and it was just a bit of a whirlwind really. We had won a lot of tournaments that year and been really successful, and to be world number one at such a young age and being quite new into being a pro was amazing. But again, like Pete was so experienced, it became quite easy to play doubles with him because he was so reliable, and you knew that in the big moments he was going to step up and he was going to finish points off, and just really enjoyable time really. Like I was just riding a wave at that time and didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. So to be that high up that quickly was just great fun.
Yeah, did it take you by surprise then, the level of success you achieved in quite a short space of time?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like when I came into the sport, the American pair, David Wagner and Nick Taylor, they were utterly dominant. They didn't lose a match for like 4 years or something crazy like that. My first tournament with Pete, we were unseeded and we drew them first round, and we actually beat them and ended their streak. So it was, yeah, it was a crazy time. It was going from nothing to like being at the Grand Slams and moving up the rankings really quickly. And obviously, it is surprising that you don't ever, when you're a kid and you're growing up, you're always looking up to these guys, and you never actually think, "Oh, that'll be me one day." Like you're dreaming of it, but when you're actually in the situation, all of a sudden, and the guys that you've been watching and admiring are now on the other side of the net to you, and you're battling with them, it's quite a strange feeling, to be honest. So those first couple of years definitely went very fast for sure.
And then straight off the back of that pretty much was the London 2012 Paralympics, which was huge for Paralympic sport as a whole, and you and Peter are obviously kind of the leading wheelchair tennis players for Great Britain, and you won a silver medal in the doubles, and that must have been a pretty crazy fortnight for you.
Yes, I mean, my views on London are very mixed. An amazing time being in East London, where half my family are based and lived, and I've grown up there. It was amazing being in the area of West Ham, where there's so many West Ham fans around, and coming out of the opening ceremony to 80,000 people was just something that I'll never forget. But then for me personally, obviously the silver in doubles was probably viewed as a bit of a failure because at the time me and Pete were on a roll, and we probably should have won that. And Pete was coming towards the end, so that was tough to take because I knew that was going to be our one opportunity together to achieve that goal. So to come away with silver was amazing, but also lit the fire in me to want to go one better, and it just gave me the experience that I definitely lacked at that time to be able to perform on the big stage. I made so many mistakes during those 2 weeks that I now look back on and I sort of cringe at myself, to be honest. But like you can't buy experience. That's what they say. You have to be there and you have to live and learn. And London was definitely that for me, and definitely shaped who I am as a player and as a person. It was a massive 2 weeks, but also a massive 2 weeks in a positive way in England and Great Britain for the way disability is viewed and the way people now get behind disability sport, it was definitely a game-changing couple of weeks.
And I guess you learned a lot from it yourself, like you said, going into like your first defining moment is when you won the 2014 US Open singles title, which was your first singles title. What did you learn though from London 2012 and that year with Peter and all that, and then going off on your own and becoming an individual champion? You must have learned a lot in that time.
I learned that to be a champion, you have to live the life. Can't be being one guy away from the court and then trying to turn it on against guys that are fully committed 100% and being full-time athletes. And there's me coming out of a nightclub at whatever time and then trying to roll up and play a tournament within 1 or 2 days and trying to win a gold medal. Going to sleep at 3 a.m. and there was a Channel 4 documentary made about me that was released like a week before the Paralympics. So I was getting a lot of messages off random people on different social media sites and stuff like that, and just got very distracted and just not what you need to be if you're going to be successful in elite level sport. So I definitely learned that, like, how to be a professional athlete, really, how to be a pro. Because not being full pro and being kind of half living the life and half just trying to rely on pure talent and physical ability, which I'd got away with up until that point. I realised that after that wasn't gonna work, and I needed to fully commit, and I needed to be going to bed at the right times and not going out and drinking and trying to play both sides and kind of being a bit of a Ricky Hatton in terms of having the training camp up to an event, but then when the events were finished, I would go out and party and celebrate and not live the life, and then try and come back and get ready again within 2 or 3 weeks. And I realised that to be successful, I needed to be committed all year round with small breaks every now and then to have a laugh with my friends and celebrate victories and stuff, but making sure that the majority of the time I was fully committed to being the best player that I could be. So definitely that was the lessons that I learned from that time and those Paralympics for sure.
And that, as we said, your first defining moment is that 2014 US Open singles title. All of that, the culmination of all that you just said, obviously led to that moment. And what was it like for you just as an individual to win that singles title?
Yeah, it was unexpected. I was still finding my way. Like, I'd had a lot of success on the doubles court, and I think I was 4 in the world in singles. But still finding my way, and still learning how to be a full-time elite athlete and how to commit and not pull away from things and then come back, and going out there was confident, and just it was one of them weeks where it all sort of came together. I'd worked really hard in the lead up and played Lucas Satoli in the semis, a guy who was on a roll at that point, and I'd really struggled against him for a long time and managed to get over that hump, and then running into my old rival David Wagner in the final in America, and being in an environment like that in New York. Like, New York's one of my favourite places in the world, and having a full crowd of people and playing an American player in one, well, at the time, the biggest match of my life was amazing. I just thrived under it, really. And I think what I learned from those moments was just that the zone definitely exists, because I was in the zone and I didn't really know what I had achieved until I was at the end of the goal and I got back to the locker rooms, and I was sort of sitting on the floor in the locker rooms and someone threw me a beer and said, "Unbelievable." And I just remember cracking the beer open and thinking, I can't believe what I've just achieved, everything that I had worked hard for and everything that I'd trained for, and all the sacrifices I had made at that point. If I never achieved anything ever again, I was content. I just won the US Open, and that was 10 years of hard work all gone into that. And to beat a player like David Wagner, who'd been world number 1 for so long, in the final as well, definitely made it massively sweet. Anyone will tell you that when you win a big event or you win a big competition, you want to beat the best players in the world along the way. And that definitely stood me in good stead after that, for being in these big moments and learning how to deal with pressure of playing for a lot of ranking points, a lot of prize money, and then obviously the prestige of being a Grand Slam champion.
As I said, like you said, once you become a Grand Slam champion, things are expected of you. There's a little bit more pressure. Did you feel that over the next few seasons?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it was completely different. All of a sudden, you're going to events, and like in tennis, when you're playing on a big arena or a big court, they announce what you've won, and it'll say, like, for a year it was the US Open champion Andy Lapthorne, and that definitely, every time that got announced, I would sort of smile, but also it added a bit of pressure knowing that, okay, now people don't see me as just a guy that turns up to make up the numbers. Like, people are expecting me to be in these tournaments and be competing for these events, but also to be professional and not make mistakes and not be angry and try and act in a certain way and answer questions in a certain way. And I was still very young at that time and learning how to do all those things. But you definitely learn over the years how to be a champion and how to act. And yeah, it was definitely, for a year, it was good fun being called the US Open champion everywhere I went. Definitely, like, it was just an amazing experience, and I just remember being everywhere I went in the world when that would get said and announced. It just made me smile, to be honest.
And then a couple of years later, obviously the Rio Paralympics was coming round. Did you feel any extra pressure going into those games?
Yeah, like from London, obviously losing in the first round in singles when I was seeded, to then going into Paralympics where it was like a lot of doubters and a lot of people not thinking I would ever do it, people doubting, is he professional enough? Still got that reputation of when I was younger, and I knew that I had put everything in for 18 months. One of my good friends, Paul Stewart, had taken 12 months off of what he was doing to come and travel around with me and help me out and get me in the best mental state to be able to perform at the Rio Paralympics. And I was going into it seeded 4, so I wasn't seeded for a medal. And to go there and do what I did was just an incredible experience. And to have, I think I had about 10 friends over there and about 5 or 6 family members over there, and just some amazing nights and amazing moments that will live with me forever, to be honest.
Yeah, so you got a silver in the singles and a bronze in the doubles, but I guess the difference at the singles at the Paralympics is that it's a bigger draw, whereas at the slams it's a little bit smaller, so in a way it kind of is worth a little bit more. Do you feel like that was one of your greatest achievements?
Yeah, 100%. Like, sure, the majority of people, if you ask them before that, is Andy Lapthorne ever going to make a Paralympic final? Most people you'd ask would say no. And at that point, going into it, seeded 4, and I think the tournament before we left the British Open, I played Wagner in the semis, I think it was, and he beat me 6-love, 6-love. So to be going into that Paralympics off the back of that, having put in all the hard work and been grinding away with Paul for all that time, was a bit of a confidence killer. But got there and just one of them weeks where it all came together, and to be on that stage again 2 years later after the US Open and be on a night session match on centre court at the Paralympics playing David Wagner again, hitting that last ball and knowing that no matter what now, again, it was another one of them no matter what moments. Like, I've made Paralympic final, I've got a silver medal minimum in singles, was just an amazing feeling. One of the best feelings I've ever had in tennis, to be honest. When I hit that last ball, it was just more relief that, like, another one of them things that no one can ever take away from you. So it's just massive joy, really, when I hit that ball.
And then obviously, like I say, winning the silver, and I guess going back to the UK, did you feel like you were kind of celebrated as one of our great Paralympic medalists?
Yeah, like I say, me and my friends like to celebrate, and we definitely celebrated that silver medal. The guys that came out with me were amazing. The support I had out there, my friends, they followed me everywhere, and they were so loud, and they definitely helped me through some of them tough moments in Rio. And when I come home, the love and support that you get from people, especially on my social media, from West Ham fans and Brentford fans that I get, is incredible. And in those, it was off the back of London. Obviously, it was great because Channel 4 took up the coverage, and to have a channel dedicated to showing the Paralympics and it not just being an afterthought after the Olympics was something that I noticed was a massive difference, because people were able to watch the matches. People were seeing me on TV. They were seeing the interviews afterwards. they'd been given the backstory, you definitely felt that love and support from back home.
Yeah, and Channel 4 have done a good job of kind of explaining the different like disability categories. And can you explain the difference now between like I spoke to Jordan Wiley a few weeks ago, and she's obviously a wheelchair tennis player, but you're a quad player. Can you just explain what the difference is?
Yes, you've got the men's and women's open divisions, and that's for athletes with like a lower limb injury only. So they're from their waist up is not affected. And then in the quad division, you've got to have 3 or more limbs affected. So you've got to have your lower half and your waist down, and then you need to have an impairment in your upper body, in your hands, in your arms, in your core. So we have guys that have to take the racket to their hand. We have a guy with Lucas has one arm. We have some amazing players that have severe impairments. And yeah, it's basically a category for players with a upper limb impairment as well as a lower limb impairment.
How important do you think visibility is? You mentioned obviously that Channel 4 are showing the coverage and showing full matches. Is it really important for people who like have cerebral palsy just to see you on the TV and winning tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, like not just cerebral palsy, but all disabilities and being able to go over to Australia and do what we've done over there and getting the coverage we now get at Wimbledon on the BBC. When I was growing up as a kid, we didn't see that on the TV. I didn't see a version of me on the TV. All my heroes are boxers or football players. So to have now an opportunity for kids with a disability to be able to physically see someone like them on the TV, on the radio, on a podcast like this, and be able to relate is massive, because it's only going to grow the sport. All disability sports are going to grow, and it gives more people with disability a hope that life's not over, life's not terrible. Like, you can go out there and achieve things, and especially like you say for people with cerebral palsy, it's if they look at me and one kid gets inspired to go and do wheelchair tennis or wheelchair basketball or whatever and change their life, then I've done a good job, and I can rest easy when I'm retired knowing that I made a difference.
Yeah, you mentioned Australia there, and that kind of brings us on to your second defining moment, which was playing the first wheelchair match on a centre court at a Grand Slam at the Australian Open in 2017. I mean, that's a huge moment for the sport, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, going over to Australia, and for years they'd pushed the boundaries and tried to make things bigger and better, and then having someone like Dylan Alcott over there, who's from Melbourne and had been on TV and TV adverts and stuff, gave us a platform really to put pressure on the tournament to try and, how big do you want to go with it, basically, was the question that we were asking. And I remember I think it was after the doubles final, basically saying to Craig Tiley, the tournament director, like, look how many people were in the crowd here, because I think there was about 3,000 or 4,000 people watching the doubles final. Put us on one of the big courts and give us a chance to show you what we could do. And Craig's been great all the way through with wheelchair tennis, especially with the quad division. And he put us on centre court, and we followed. There was a junior girls final with Marta Kustuk who's playing this week in the French Open, and she's doing really well. And then we played, and then after us was the Williams sisters playing against each other. So it was just a crazy moment, and one of the proudest moments, not just of my tennis career, but of my life. Like, I used to go to Wimbledon and watch the Williams sisters, and I've got a shirt and pictures from when I was a kid, when I had a picture of them both, and then to be playing on the court directly before them, before they play each other, was amazing. And for wheelchair sport as a whole and disability sport as a whole, was a massive moment in terms of someone actually saying, okay, we're going to be the first ones to smash that glass ceiling and say, right, we're going to put these guys on centre court. We're not just going to put them on there, we're going to put them on directly before the Williams sisters in a massive spot. And there was loads of people came and watched, and now every year, like, I played Dylan there, I think last year in the final, and it was nearly full, the centre court. And there were so many people with disabilities. I remember seeing all around the top of Rod Lavery's disability seats, and it was packed with every single one with like kids with disabilities that had come to watch, as well as the crowd being full. So to be down there, and I've been there for so many years chanting for Andy Murray and cheering for Andy Murray and sitting in his player box, and then to be on that court and have people showing come on Andy, and it was, for me, was quite a surreal moment, but something I'm very, very proud of to have been a part of the early days of making these things happen.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like the feelings you had on that court that day and the emotions must have been really special. What was it like when you first went out onto that court that day?
Very nerve wracking, because you realise that you're doing something that's never been done, and you don't want to just do yourself proud, but you want to do the sport justice, and you want to do all the guys that have come before you justice, and you want to put on a good show. So I was very nervous, but that's what you play for, that's what you train for, and you realise that these are the moments that you live for. The massive highs and playing in the arenas is such a good feeling. So within sort of 10, 15 minutes, I was just playing and really enjoying being in that environment, and having the focus on us was just great fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned Andy Murray there. I guess how influential has he been in your career and the whole of the British tennis team, really? How have they supported you throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I speak to Andy Murray and Jamie Murray a lot, and I'm good friends with them and massive supporters of wheelchair tennis, and all the British players. And I think most of the British tennis players get behind us, and we all train at the same venues and know each other very well. So just very inspiring. The guys won basically everything, and to do what he did at Wimbledon was massive, and a guy that I know I can go to if I have any issues and send him a text if I have a problem or something that I think I need some advice for. I can go to him and ask for that, and sat and had some long lunches with him, and put the world to rights, and tried to work out ways to make wheelchair tennis bigger and better and get the prize money up and stuff like that. And he's a massive supporter of doing that and achieving that. And the more players like him, and obviously Novak is a massive supporter of wheelchair tennis as well, the more guys like that speak up for us and our sport, the quicker it's going to grow, and the more we're going to get out of these Grand Slams. And the long run and the goal is to have more players at these events, and bigger prize money, and for more players to be able to earn a living off the sport, really. So the more those guys can get behind us and keep supporting us, the better.
Yeah, I mean, if all goes to plan, obviously a lot's changed in the last 10 years, but what would you like to see in the next 10 years?
Probably 16 draw minimum, and the prize money to keep going up at the rate it's going up, so that more players can earn a living off the sport, like I've already said, and more leading events to be integrated into the able-bodied side, and just let it run and not hold it back. Just like see how quick it can grow, and see where it ends up, and not put any limits on it. And definitely in 10 years' time, it would be nice if there was 16 players from each category that were earning a full-time living off playing and rolling around, playing all the tournaments around the world, and not having to worry about having to get another job or something like that. That would definitely be a good goal to set.
And just one tournament that you've mentioned here as your third defining moment is the World Team Cup, which you won in Sardinia in 2017. Can you just explain why that event and that win in particular was so special?
So that's like our version of Davis Cup. So it's a team event, and it's country versus country. And I'd won it before, but I'd won it in a team where we had Kean Norfolk and Jamie Burdick in, and we had myself. So we had 3 guys inside the top 6. So we were probably expected to win that one. And Pete was obviously playing at number 1 and leading the team. But the one in Sardinia, I was playing number 1. My doubles partner now, Anthony Cottrell, was playing number 2, and we were probably third or fourth favourites going into that. And I love being in a team environment as much as I love playing one-on-one. It is great to be in the team environment, and I love supporting other players and supporting my friends and stuff like that. And it's the 1 week of the year when that's allowed to happen. You're allowed to get behind your mates and be loud and stuff like that. So to always represent my country is a big thing. To go there and win and beat some of the countries and some of the bigger names like we did that week was an amazing week, and probably one of the funnest weeks of my career in terms of just really having fun with it. Sometimes with tennis, it's an individual sport, and you're on your own a lot with your team and stuff like that, and it can get quite lonely at times. So to be around other guys and just be rolling and just really rolling with the punches, and each time we won one, it was like, right, how far can we take this? And there was a lot of matches where we'd be 1-1 after singles, and then it would go down to doubles, and everyone's getting behind you, and you're playing for GB, and there's probably 10 members of staff there as well, so the atmosphere was really good. And yeah, just a real special one to beat some of the top guys with a new doubles partner and a team that was ranked, like I say, not even to get a medal, to go and win it was pretty special. We beat Israel in the final when they had the gold medalist from London 2012 playing in their team. We beat America in the semis, and I think they had 3 players inside the top 10 at the time. So, yeah, just a really fun week. And any time we get to link up and play as a team and play for Great Britain is always fun. So it's always one that I look for on the calendar.
Yeah, you talk a lot about representing Great Britain and team events. Do you feel like there's obviously a lot of experimentation going on in the main tour with like ATP Cup and things like that? Do you think there's room for a kind of able-bodied and disabled team event that could happen maybe one day?
Yeah, again, that's something that obviously Jamie runs the Battle of the Brits, and it's something I'm talking to him about. I'm trying to see if there's something that we can do there and how it'd work. But I definitely think within the next few years there's room for an event where you could combine the two, and I think that'd be great fun. And I think Jamie will probably be the first one to take the first step with that and getting us involved in Battle of the Brits. It's something that we're talking about constantly, and hopefully happens sooner rather than later. But I'd definitely love to compete alongside those guys.
So if you bump into him this week at Roland Garros, make sure you put a word in.
I will.
Obviously, Wimbledon's a big tournament, and your fourth defining moment is Wimbledon 2019, which was the first singles tournament for the quad. That was obviously a huge moment. What do you think took Wimbledon so long to get a singles event running for the quads?
I don't know. I'm not going to get into too much of the politics of what went on. It was probably, like you say, defining moments. One of the defining things of my career will be being part of that battle to make sure that the quad category was included in 4 Grand Slams. And I've got some really good people in my life that work at Wimbledon, and I work closely with, and I know that things aren't done deliberately, and it's probably down to a lack of understanding and stuff like that. But we got there in the end, and like I say, having grown up going to Wimbledon when I was younger and starting my love of tennis out there, watching Tim Henman play, to be given the opportunity to go there and play was, for me, just a dream come true. Like, whether I won or lost was pretty irrelevant at that point. I sort of got to Wimbledon and was like, proper made it now. Like, we've done it. I'm here. I'm playing at Wimbledon. Like, another one of those things that no one can ever take from you is having the opportunity to play there. And yeah, it was amazing. It was surreal to be playing there, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously you won the doubles title there. That must be great to call yourself a Wimbledon champion.
Yeah, and to be the first to go and do something, to be part of this group of players that's been the first to go and achieve certain stuff has been really special, and really something that's been a crazy ride, and big battles to try and open doors and, like I say, smash glass ceilings, and just try and make sure that when I'm done, I'm leaving this in a better state than what I found it, so that when there's a younger Andy Lapthorne or younger Dave Wagner or Anthony Cottrell or whoever it'll be, they don't face the same challenges that we faced for years of trying to break down barriers to get into these big events, and to be earning the same money as the men's and women's opens players and stuff like that, and make sure that this sport's left in a better place than what I found it.
Yeah, I actually asked this question to Jordan. I kind of said, are you happy to be that decade where you were the pioneer and you brought it to a level where people can find it more accessible, or would you rather be 10 years younger where you can reap the benefits of that system?
I think there's a bit of both. Like, there's always part of me that I can sort of see where this is headed, and I can see the sort of money that's going to be involved. These Grand Slams, they pay crazy money to the able-bodied players, and the rate at which the prize money is increasing at an event like Wimbledon, there's no reason to think that within a few years wheelchair players aren't going to be playing for 100 grand for the winner and stuff like that. So there's part of you that thinks, oh, I wish I could be 10 years later because you can there to earn a good living and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, someone's got to go first and make these things happen. So to be part of a group of players that's doing that and that will be remembered for being the ones that broke down those doors, and we're still not earning a bad living at the moment. Do you know what I mean? The money's still great, so it's a tough one. Like, there's part of me that wishes like I could see in 10 years' time, sort of like a 16 draw, playing on the big courts, more TV coverage, more prize money and stuff like that. But that's not going to be me, and there's going to be someone that comes along and benefits off the back of what we've done. So yeah, it's going to be great for those younger guys coming up.
And as a British player playing at Wimbledon, you must be well supported, and it must be great to be part of that whole tournament.
Yeah, it was a crazy week like that. I've ever played. Like, that was the most crazy week ever in terms of support. I think for semi-final, people were climbing up the stands to try and watch, and my friends were there. And then for the final, I think I'd done about 130 tickets, just me personally, just off people that wanted to come and watch, people that friends, family, and then people messaging me on social media. And then the amount of people that come and watch the British players at Wimbledon is just crazy. The only place that can compare to it is when Dylan's playing in Australia. You'll get a crowd like that, but no one else in the world, and nowhere else in the world will you get the support that the British public give to disability athletes. It's yeah, you can't compare to anywhere else. Like, if Gordon's playing or I'm playing, the court will be full, which is amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, you've obviously mentioned Dylan a few times, and coming on to your fifth defining moment, which I love, is that US Open 2019, your second singles title, but you also stopped Dylan from getting the calendar slam, which is pretty huge in tennis, and you stopped him from doing that.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. We're obviously big rivals, and he had got the better of me at Wimbledon just shortly before. And I knew there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of hype, and I was going into all my press conferences, and no one was asking me any questions about me or how I was doing. It was all like, what are your thoughts on Dylan winning the calendar Grand Slam? What are your thoughts on Dylan with this? What are your thoughts on Dylan with that? And I got to a point where it really did just motivate me to stop it from happening. I felt like everyone was writing me off. I just felt like a lot of the media had already written the headline, and it was just nice to go out and basically put a spanner in the works and ruin it, to be honest. And for me to go back to New York and do it for a second time was massive personally for me, even without Dylan going for the calendar Grand Slam, because I was always going to have that thing over me of people say, oh, well, he won one, it was a fluke. Anyone can fluke one. If you do it twice, people can't say that you fluked it. And to beat a guy like that who was on, I think he was on a 35 match win streak. He'd beat him in the other 3 Grand Slam finals, so it was becoming difficult and a mental test. To be able to take that moment and make it mine was very, very special, and such an amazing week to win singles and doubles there, and really play probably for the first time in my life on the big stage the way I can do, and the way I do on the practice court was amazing. And I love that place so much. Like, New York US Open, I love Wimbledon to bits, and it's my home Grand Slam. But if you told me if you could only play one place for the rest of your life, it's the easiest answer in the world for me. It'd be New York, Flushing Meadows. It's my favourite place in the world to go and visit, and it's my favourite place in the world to go and play. So I always look forward to going there. It's always the one I want to win more than anything else.
And that final in 2019 wasn't even close. It was 6-1, 6-love. I mean, that's kind of the perfect day, isn't it?
Yeah, there was some anger in that performance for sure. I think somewhere I need to try and find that motivation and that anger that I had that day and try and bottle it up a bit. But just one of them days, like I say, where every now and then I believe in everything happens for a reason and stuff like that. And I think it was just my time and my day, and everything came together, and I played probably the best match I've ever played. To play a guy like that who barely loses matches, and to beat him, I think it was 6-love, 6-1, was just incredible and such an amazing day. And again, to have some of my friends there with me to share, like, all these things that they mean nothing unless you have people to share it with. And I would like on all my big wins, I just remember who was there. That's the first thing I remember. So to have one of our best mates there, Ollie, in my corner, who had been supporting me so much and been bigging me up and getting in my head and trying to get me over the hurdle of beating Dylan because it was becoming a bit of a hoodoo. It was amazing to share it with him, and yeah, it's nice to have people around that care enough to want to come and support you for sure.
Yeah, obviously Dylan is one of the greats of the sport already. I mean, 7 consecutive Australian Open titles, 12 Grand Slam singles title in total. What makes him so good, and what makes him such a good competitor?
He's strong, very strong, um, physically very strong also, which helps him a lot. He's just competitive and just loves it, and he's got a nice game and a big game. He's got a lot of power, and it's difficult to play him. But we've had some big battles over the years, and he's just got on the better side of me in some close ones. And it's like in sport, it's a game of inches, and it comes down to who can win those big moments and those big points. There's not often that you're going to get like at Wimbledon. I think he beat me 6-love 6-2, and then a few weeks later I beat him at US Open 6-love 6-1. That doesn't happen very often. And throughout the times that we've played, that hasn't happened very often. It's always been very close, even if it's been straight sets. It's been close, and it comes down to those little moments that turn it one way or the other, and he's very good at making sure he wins those moments, and that's where he's probably got the better of me at times. But like, he's a great player and a great competitor, and it's fun to have people around to play against.
So when you did win that US Open title in 2019, you also took the world number 1 spot. I mean, to have that over him as well must have been quite a nice moment.
Yeah, and to wake up and be waking up in Melbourne in his hometown as the world number 1, I'm sure he didn't enjoy that very much, but it's definitely something that I had. Like, you have your goals when you start out, and you have your dreams of what you want to achieve, and like I always said, people ask me the question all the time, world number 1 or a gold medal, you can only have one, and I always said like world number 1 for me, it's an easy answer. Like when you finish, I can say I was world number 1 singles and doubles, and for a period of time you were the best in the world at what you did, and not many people can say that. So it had taken me a long time to get there, and I'd had couple of years before the last match of the tour finals. I was playing David Wagner in the final, and if I'd have won that match, I'd have been end of year world number 1 and would have got there. And I lost that match, and it was one of those things where it's starting to get to the stage of like, is it going to have to happen? Is it just going to be the best that's ever played that's not got to number 1 and stuff like that? Because I was getting to the point where it's like, is he going to do it? He's going the wrong way, and I've been number 2 for a long time. So to finally get that win and get over that hurdle and wake up being world number 1 was an amazing feeling, and again just an achievement that a lot of hard work from a lot of people had gone in, and it was nice to reward them with that in Australia and have that done, signed, sealed and delivered, and when you're finished, another thing that no one can take off you.
And then a year after you won that US Open title, obviously the world was in a slightly different place. There was a lot of drama at the time with the US Open last year about having the wheelchair events, and initially it wasn't going to be on, and then Dylan and yourself kind of complained about that, and eventually it did happen. So just talk about that whole summer last year. What was that like?
I think very tough for a lot of people with the pandemic and stuff like that, and then for me personally, having got to that world number 1 ranking, I found it very difficult. All of a sudden it was like really tough to get motivated, really tough to go into training, and it was a weird feeling. I was happy, but I was also sad in a way because I'd chased that dream for so long, and then when you finally achieve it, it's a very strange feeling. So it was a tough year for everyone, and then obviously the circumstances, US Open, someone made a mistake somewhere. We don't need to go into it too much. Someone obviously made a mistake somewhere and made an assumption that they shouldn't have made. Well, within days of realising that they'd made a mistake, they fixed that, and we were invited back. And all these events during this pandemic have done a great job of being able to get these events on. It's been very difficult for everyone really, so we're just lucky that we're able to still travel and be able to play, and we got looked after really well in New York, and they used the centre court really well because there was no crowd, so we were able to use the boxes that they would usually use for hospitality to watch the matches and stuff. So it was good fun, and just hoping that we're coming out the other side of this, and I'm going to be able to get back to full crowds as soon as possible.
And then obviously the French Open followed not long after that, having moved from its normal time of year. But then after that tournament, you kind of said that you were struggling a little bit and you needed a little bit of time away from the sport. Can you just explain what was going on at that time of your life?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, again, it all links into back to January, getting to that number one spot and sort of being a bit lost as into, like, where do I go now? What do I do now? I'd always had that every day when I woke up. Like, I'd always had that in the back of my mind. So I've got to keep going because I've got to get to number one. I've got to keep going, get to number one. And once that's there, I was just a bit lost as to what I do now. Do I carry on? Like, I've cracked it. I've done what I wanted to do. I've got a medal from the Paralympics. I've got Grand Slams in the bank. I've been world number one singles and doubles, and just felt really empty for a long time. And then obviously the pandemic came along and didn't help me at all because I had a lot of time to sit and think. And just remember going out to New York and being defending champion, and all of a sudden feeling complete opposite to what I usually do, feeling like I didn't want to be there, feeling really nervous, and really struggling, and then going to Roland Garros and it getting worse, and being in a situation where I couldn't. All of a sudden, I was in a situation where I could take people with me to these tournaments. So then, being in the pandemic, I couldn't take my friends, I couldn't take family members. I was more alone. And then trying to play under high pressure against someone like Dylan Alcott when you're not feeling quite right mentally is very, very difficult. And here last year was probably one of the difficult moments of my life, to just be here and try and compete and play that final under the circumstances that I played was really difficult, and I found it really hard, and just realised that I needed to open up more about my thoughts and my feelings and how I was feeling about different stuff. And I think you realise as you get older that you can't bottle it all up, and I was bottling a lot of stuff up from years back. Yeah, being in the pressure cooker of playing elite sport is probably not the right place to be when you're feeling that way. So the support that I got after the press conference at Roland Garros, where I sort of broke down and it all came out, was unexpected, and definitely helped me a lot to come back and have the ambition and be brave enough to come back and be able to face it, really, because the support of people from social media and the support that I got from even the tournaments was great.
And obviously at this year's Roland Garros, that kind of mental health spotlight is back in the spotlight again with Naomi Osaka, withdrawing from the tournament. I mean, how do you feel about that whole situation? Is it something that tennis needs to take a little bit more attention to?
I think it's difficult. I think they're in a different position. As tennis players, we all have to do press. And if you allow one person to not do press, then it opens a can of worms. And some people say this person's getting an advantage, that person's getting an advantage. And like, I had to do my press last year, even with the way I was feeling. I think it's just more of a personal thing where if you're in that situation, like, I got to the point where I was like, right, I can't do this. Like, I can't fulfill my commitments to the full. So I need to take myself away from the situation, get myself sorted, and then come back when I'm feeling right. I feel like hopefully she gets the help she needs and she's feeling better. But I think it's a very difficult situation for these guys to be in, because they've, on the one hand, they need to look after someone's mental health, but on the other hand, they can't be seen to be making one rule for one, and then because then it opens a can of worms, and all of a sudden you've got players not going to press or not doing press, and then the whole sport falls apart, because without press, media coverage, we have no sport. So it's a difficult one, and I hope that she's okay and she takes the time away that she needs, and then can come back and be fit and strong again mentally to be able to cope with the rigors of what these 2 weeks at a Grand Slam in a bubble like this is very intense. So you need to be mentally in the right place, or otherwise it's very difficult.
And in terms of yourself personally, do you feel like you're back in a good space now?
Up and down, good days and bad days. Like, definitely not like good all the time. There's definitely low moments, but I'm just more aware of it now, and I have my people around that I can be honest with and open with, and try not to put as much pressure on myself, and looking at results as much, and trying to be kinder to myself to just not get into that state again, and just living life and trying to be happy. But I'm definitely by no means completely fixed, and definitely coming back here brings back some memories and some demons, but battling every day and just trying to be as good as I can be and happy as I can be, and trying to do it in an environment that sometimes isn't great for that, but yeah, just battling on, mate.
And you've got a busy summer lining up. Obviously, Wimbledon wasn't on last year; it's back this year. That must be a big target for you this summer.
Yeah, Wimbledon's like on my list now of like this is my last sort of thing on my list where I can sort of be content if I can get the singles there. Like I'll be content with whatever happens from there. To be honest, that's a big one. Would be an amazing dream come true to do that. So definitely a massive target. And then obviously off the back of that, we've got Tokyo Paralympics and then straight into the US Open. So it's going to be non-stop. There's going to be opportunities to win, and there's going to be opportunities to correct mistakes if things go wrong. There's going to be another big event around the corner, which is always quite a nice situation to be in. And something that we're lucky with tennis, that we don't have to wait around a long time to correct mistakes. So just really looking forward to being out there this summer and hoping that Wimbledon I can produce on the big stage.
And obviously, yeah, you mentioned Tokyo there. That's obviously once every 4 years. Obviously, been 5 years this time since the last Paralympics. What are your realistic expectations for Tokyo?
I don't know. It's like once you've gone to the final and become runner-up, it's very difficult. There's only one way to go to better that. So obviously, I would love to win, but I know that it's tougher now. The players are better than there was 4 years ago. There's some younger players around that are going to be really tough to beat. The goals are the same. The goals are to go there and try and win, and to try and win a medal with my doubles partner, Anthony. And yeah, just go out and have fun. Like what I've learned with the Paralympics is to just enjoy it. You don't get many of them. So to go out there and enjoy it and try my best to make something happen. If we come away with another medal, that would be great.
So do you still enjoy being on the court during the match? Does it still give you the thrills that it used to?
Sometimes no, but the majority of the time on the big stage, yes. I love playing in the big tournaments and in the big moments of Tokyo and French Open and Wimbledon and stuff like that. Still get me going. I still want to be there and still be in those big moments. So for sure, like this summer is going to be great because I'm going to have week after week of being in big moments, big stages, and playing for big honours. And yeah, still really motivated to do that. So until that leaves me, I'll be going around to the Grand Slams at least anyway.
And do you think about retirement and what are you going to do with your life after tennis is finished?
Yeah, 100%. Like massively something that I'm thinking about, and I love all sports, so I'd love to get into like commentary and sports broadcasting and stuff like that, and just being involved in tennis still and any sports really that I can be involved in and be part of from a media side is something I'm looking to get involved in, and definitely something that I know this isn't going to last much longer. So looking towards that way now, which is a bit scary. It goes very quickly, but definitely closer to the end now than I am to the start. So yeah, looking to open some doors, and hopefully something will come my way where I can stay in the sport from a media side.
And when you do hang up your racket for the last time, will you have any regrets of your career, or will you be pretty satisfied with what you've got?
Yeah, no regrets, mate. No regrets. I don't have any regrets in life, and like I say, what will be. And I always put it this way: like I've lost in a lot of Grand Slam finals, but if you have come to that kid at 11 years old and said this is what you're going to have at the end, I know back then I would have bit your hand off for what I've got right now. So I'm content and I don't look back with any regrets.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you tell that kid who was just starting out in his career?
Tell him to be careful and to just work hard and put it all in, and make sure that when you leave the court each day and you leave the training each day that you've put it in, because it's a lot easier to live with yourself when you know that you've given it everything than when a bit like London, when I knew I could have done more. It was very difficult for a few years there to live with that. So that would be my main bit of advice.
And you mentioned there you've had obviously a lot of wins and losses. Do the highs kind of counterbalance the lows, do you think?
It's difficult. There's been some massive lows. Like massive, massive lows. Grand Slam final losses, Paralympic final losses. They're really hard to take, and it takes a lot of mental strength to get over those. And that's probably part of the reason why I was where I was at the time last year. But then, like I say, for every one of those, you get a US Open where that comes along and you win that, and you realise, right, that's why we do it. That's why you put the work in. And like you say, the counterbalance of that is amazing. How it's like a seesaw, but for sure, those highs are what you live for.
Yeah, and obviously you've given me 5 moments. I'm just going to go through them again. The first one was 2014 US Open, that first singles title. The second one was that first match on a main court at a Grand Slam. The third one was the World Team Cup in Sardinia in 2017. The fourth one was the Wimbledon 2019, playing the first singles semi-final there and winning the doubles title. And then the last one was the US Open 2019, when you won your second singles title and stopped Dylan from winning the Grand Slam. If you had to choose one of those 5 as your ultimate defining moment, which one would that be?
Very, very difficult, but probably the 2019 against Dylan. I'd say I'll be remembered for that one, to be honest, especially from my peers. That one will probably be the one that people talk about the most when they look back. So probably that one.
Yeah, I mean, only dropping one game against one of the greats in a major final.
Yeah, that's probably the one.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Andy. It's been really great chatting to you, and yeah, I hope for lots of success for you this summer.
Thank you, mate.
Well, fingers crossed for Andy this summer, with Wimbledon, the Tokyo Paralympics, and the US Open all coming up. I really hope it'll be a fruitful summer for him this year. You can now follow this podcast on social media at MyDefiningPod on Twitter and at MyDefiningMomentsPod on Instagram. Please do share it and comment if you've enjoyed the episodes. And I'll be back very soon with a slightly spooky episode 13.